Hey everybody, my name is Eric. Welcome to Goshen Prepping. There's something in this video we need to discuss. In fact, all preppers should be addressing this issue. And this issue started when I took a trip to Canada. My wife and I drove from Michigan into Ontario, drove across the lower part of Ontario, and went to a concert in Niagara Falls. It was a blast. Belinda Carlisle, do you know her? But even though we had fun, it was certainly a learning lesson and something we need to address. Stay to the end. This will affect every one of us. And even though we had a lot of fun, there was certainly a learning lesson and something you need to see at the end of this video because it's something that we all need to address and look at. And I'm very serious about this because something's coming. And this trip to Canada simply just rattled it back in my mind as far as, we need to pay attention to this very clearly. I'll get that in just a minute. All right, so I was prior military, been to countless countries, both first world and third world. Places that some places I can't even talk about. But, some of them were great. Like, for example, I lived in Britain for a while. It was fantastic. I even picked up a little bit of a British accent at the time, which was just really fun. It's long gone now. But I have all these fond memories of being in these places. Very good. And no matter what country I went to, I don't care if it was like Britain or a third world country, they all had one thing in common, and it's that they're not America. I know it's a weird thing to say, and stick with me. Because no matter where I went, Spain and Britain and all over Europe and Africa, etc. All the countries had a very relaxed way of life. It was kind of like what I picture as being small town America prior to World War II. Very relaxed, mom and pop, just eating at home and just, the way we picture quintessential America as far as how it used to be. And every time I went abroad, I was always overseas, by the way, I'd come back and it was like a culture shock coming back to America because America is so fast paced, so high stress. In fact, there's something about American culture, this Americana, that thrives on this high energy stress. Have you seen this? I mean, if you haven't, go to a foreign country, even just Canada, and come back and you'll see this because, Canada, it was so relaxing, so beautiful, all these beautiful small towns, and even going to Niagara Falls, which was really fun. All of this was very laid back and relaxed. Go ahead and pull one out, Ashley. When you could have a bag of milk. We stopped at Walmart to pick up a few groceries, and Costco, why not? Sounds like a fun vacation trip. Oh my gosh, it was an absolute madhouse. And I asked the lady, is it always like this? She goes, no, just on the weekends. And that reminds me of what it was like when I was a little kid in America, that even when America was a little bit more small town America, we did a lot of our major shopping on the weekends like that, going to like Kmart or Montgomery Wards, etc., or those little 5 and dime or little shops like that. They were madhouses because, that was when all the shopping took place. It was different times. Those different times are still there in Canada, and I'm sure a lot of countries around the world too. Now, coming back to Michigan in itself is still kind of small town America, but compared to like Canada, Michigan is really a hopping place. And again, most places in America are. And that's why we picked it up here, because if you've been following our channel for a long time, we traveled the country for about a year looking for the place we wanted to go to kind of get away from that rat race. And I'm not talking about just stress and rat race, but well, you know what? Here's what it comes down to. As preppers, we need to be ready because when crap hits the fan, and that's what the video is going to show you, crap is going to hit the fan. It's not a matter of if, but when. We want to be away from some of the major population centers as much as possible. We still have towns nearby. We still have a city nearby. Mount Pleasant, Michigan is a city. I mean, Claire, where my dojo is technically a city as well. But it's so small town that, it's not going to have a huge population problem when the food lines stop. When the grocery stores no longer have food coming in, well, it's not going to be as impactful here or in Canada or in third world countries, but we're not going to be immune from what's coming. And again, that's why we picked this. This is where my martial arts studio is located, and we love it. It's like stepping back in time. So what does it have to do with you and me? And this video is for our small town America. I want you to understand that there are no places that are immune to the crash that's going to happen, and there is going to be an American economic crash. How can I say that confidently? Because the amount of money we borrow, we don't print it ourselves. It's done through this, in my opinion, illegal group called the Federal Reserve that takes the money and prints it out of nowhere, then loans it to us, and then charges us interest. We can't even pay back the interest. And it's just like a family. You keep borrowing on credit cards, then you use credit cards to pay off those credit cards. You're going to go bankrupt. And it's going to happen in America. It is going to happen. There is going to be an economic crash in America. And obviously, the results of this are going to be absolutely catastrophic. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll prove to you in a little bit in the video, it doesn't matter where you are in America or in the world, you're going to feel the effects and ramifications of this. Okay, back to Canada. One of the things I loved about Canada, again, it reminds me of like the way America used to be. It was so much Canadian pride. The red maple leaf flag everywhere, on TV, when we were back in the hotel room, it would say, made in Canada, proudly made in Canada. It was incredible everywhere. I mean, especially when we go to like the Canadian McDonald's. I don't even want to put it in that same category. Tim Hortons. Have you ever been to Tim Hortons? Man, their coffee is so good. But Tim Hortons are absolutely everywhere. And we really enjoy going there and just relaxing, having a cup of coffee and just chatting, spending time together. That's what we do. But one of the things I saw while we were in Canada, and when I used to travel abroad in the military too, was most of their economy, and I shouldn't say most, but a big chunk of it is based on U.S. commerce. In other words, Tim Hortons, true and true Canadian restaurant, fantastic. But I'll be honest with you, there is a lot of America in Canada. There's a lot of America in Britain. There's a lot of America, and even in the third world countries we would go to, they would have a lot of American goods for sale, American restaurants. America's commerce and capitalism has spread worldwide. And in, you ask my opinion, that was like their intention. It's always been the intention of spreading America's influence around the world because, at least now, it wasn't always this way, obviously, we are the reserve currency for the world. And it may change. We may not be the reserve currency as time goes on. So going into Canada and seeing all this, it was reminiscent of us living out here in the middle of nowhere, out in the country. And it's a great place to be when the economy crashes. But again, you need to know this. You're going to be affected by this. You and I both will. We live out in the middle of nowhere, Michigan, in the middle of nowhere. Our dirt road is just coming off the main road, which is miles from the city, is miles down our dirt road. Half the time full of potholes. I hate even driving it. But that's the exchange. I have to go to town and teach at my dojo. I, go into town to do my shopping. But living out here in the middle of nowhere is because of the way things are right now in the world and the economy, the way it's heading. And I know a lot of you as preppers are living that same goal, by the way, but a lot of you want to do that. But it's so tough to break away from that rat race and actually be self-sufficient out in the middle of nowhere. And we all see it when the economy in America crashes, which is going to. Its effects will be far-reaching, and there will be serious ramifications, obviously, on our economy and everybody's economy. Because think about this. In 1929, when the stock market crashed, it led to the Great Depression. The Great Depression in America? Yeah. But the Great Depression worldwide. It was the American stock market that crashed that led to this world stock market crash. Metaphorically speaking, the economy crashed in countries all over the world. And you may say, oh, yeah, of course, because they're based on America. Well, they are now. America's the reserve currency, but in 1929, they weren't. We were still based on the British, on the pound being the reserve currency. But think about this. In 1929, even though the world was getting smaller at the time, if you want to travel from America to France or Britain, it was not simply just hopping on a plane and 12, 14 hours later, wherever you're there. Not at all. Things were so different back then, but yet in America, which was not the reserve currency, when our stock market crashed and our economy crashed, it caused the world to crash. And think about this now. We're heading into a place because our economy is unsustainable the way it's going, and it is going to crash here and there. It's going to crash in Canada. It's going to crash in Britain. It's going to crash in those third world countries. It's going to crash in your neck of the woods, in your neighborhood. And that is something, as a prepper, we're absolutely trying to be ready for, because this is something that is coming. And most preppers think that living out in the boonies will save their butt. And honestly, it might. Preppers think that being self-sufficient, growing your own garden, will save their butt. And honestly, it might. And of course, there's expatriates, preppers who've moved to other countries to get away from this because they know it's coming. They think that's going to save their butt. And it might. But I want you to understand, you cannot have this false hope based on it might, because it very well might not. Because in the Great Depression, I forgot the percentage, but something like 25% or 50% of the people lived in the cities. I'm sure people know these stats. Put them in the comments below. Left the cities to live out in the country where you and I live. They went out to the middle of nowhere. They went to other countries where you and I live to escape from this. And that's what made me think, because I loved traveling through Canada. It was just a very relaxing, fun time getting away from this fast-paced America. But if you're a person living in one of these small towns in Canada and you think, well, I'm away from America, it's not going to affect me, you're absolutely wrong. This is going to affect every single person when the economy crashes. And listen, this is not 1929, where the British was a reserve currency. This is our modern times, where America is a reserve currency and everybody's connected. The world was not becoming smaller like 1929. The world is small. Everything is connected. Everything's connected electronically through commerce. And so when this crashes, this ripple effect across the world is going to be absolutely nothing less than catastrophic. Because what happens is, when the economy crashes, you may be good. You may actually be self-sufficient and live in the boonies. But 95% of your neighbors who live out there do not. And those 95% of neighbors are going to get hungry, and they're going to get desperate, and they're going to be looking for food through you. And I mean, maybe you haven't let people know you're a prepper. That's a good thing, but it doesn't matter. They're going to be going everywhere looking for food, because understand, in the Great Depression, that's exactly what they did. You know, you even see like movies today where they stole people's chickens and such. Living out in the country is not going to make you exempt from what's happening. You need to be ready, because hunger leads to starvation, which leads to desperation, which leads to violence, which comes to your front door. I don't care if you live in America, in the boonies, in Canada, third world country, Britain, I don't care. This is going to be far-reaching effects absolutely everywhere, and we have to be ready for this, because this is not 1929. This is our modern times. But keep this in mind. The last note for you. What happened in 1929 when the market crashed? They went 10 years of this starvation, and then what happened? That desperation led to World War II. I mean, people say it was actually pushed that way and it was actually orchestrated to make that happen. It doesn't matter, because the results are still the same. We're going to have to deal with this absolute chaos that's coming because of this. And again, it is coming. Our economy is unsustainable and it's going to crash. And when it does, no matter where you are, it's going to take you and me with it. So we have to prepare, not simply just stockpiling food, but physically fit, self-defense, diversion techniques, all kinds of things happening. This is why I have my dojo too, by the way. It's all about getting ready for this crash that is coming. Are you ready?